Hey YouTubers! It's been a while since I did the last video on Flat Earth. Uh, Basically because I'm still waiting for any flat earther to come up and disprove one of my 3 debunking the flat earth videos. Some did actually find some errors I made, which I admitted I did and corrected them. Still, after the correction, my video stands as a rock. Nobody so far of the thousands of views I had managed to come up with any evidence to refute my debunking videos. But in all the discussions I find always one thing popping up, being used by flat earthers, and that's, well, I have empirical evidence. So what is this empirical evidence? Well, that's data on knowledge, also known as sense experience. It is a collective term for the knowledge or the source of knowledge acquired by means of the senses, and particularly by observation and experimentation. And it's one of the most used arguments by people who believe in the flat earth. Basically, a flat earth believer is a empiricist. And empirical evidence is information that justifies a belief in the truth or falsity of a claim. And in the empiricist view, one can claim to have knowledge only when one has a true belief based on empirical evidence. So people who believe in a flat earth will say, I look at the horizon and it is flat. Water is always level. I see no curve. We cannot look far enough due to the environmental and moisture and other effects of the air. That's why the sun disappears at night, and our common sense of everyday perception of the earth, and many more of these claims. So empirical evidence is based on what their eyes see, but what they forget is that eyes see nothing. The registration and the whole interpretation takes place in your brain. And if your brain is not developed, you will get the wrong interpretation. Your eyes are no more than a GoPro camera, and the computer to make sense out of it is your brain. So what is the difference between a flat earth believer and a more educated person? And sorry, this is not meant as a condescending remark, but we will see why. Your eyes, as I said, is not more than a GoPro camera. Your brain is the computer. But how does a computer sort things out? Well, by checking its database, right? And a brain's database consists of all your experience and the stuff you learned, and probably some stuff in your genes. So whether you have learned math, physics, biology, history, and whether your genes allow you to be creative, have a good intuition, be analytical, have imagination and fantasy, and your experiences in, for instance, sailing, skydiving, traveling and flying, that all creates a database. But if your brain is empty, if you haven't done any of these things, you run the risk that whatever you see is not what is really there. You have no frame of reference. Like here, where we see two blocks or planes on a bigger plane that appear to have simply different colors. And here we see curved lines. And this one is especially interesting because we have a figure, and the same figure here, it is 5 by 13, if I'm correct, and the same here. The same objects in there, check them out, they are the same. Yet by just repositioning, I suddenly create extra space. I create nothing or something out of nothing. I am God. So, what happens with a computer that is not empty? Well, two things can happen. Either it's full, the hard disk is full, with a lot of useless information, and therefore you cannot find the reference. Or you still have space to learn, but your index is messed up. And that makes storing and finding data difficult. Apparently this happens also with people. It seems that it creates a lack of capacity to gather new, interesting and valuable information that could help interpret the empirical evidence. And a lot of scientific research has been done to see what can cause this mess up of the index. And unfortunately, sorry I have to say it, but religion is one of them. From the, let's say, 40 studies that were done with sufficient scientific background and checked by peers, etc., it shows that over 35 of the studies prove that there is a relation between being religious and incapable of learning new things. And the rest of the studies showed that there is no correlation either way. It is not strange that if you look at all the scientists study done by the National Academy of Science, that only a fraction of them have some form of religion. They are theists, but it doesn't say whether they're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. Yeah? So probably you can divide that part into all kinds of subcategories. And it is not strange, because if your mind is not, your index is not screwed up by a religion, you are able to gather more information and all the free space of your hard disk can be used. So empirical evidence, data or knowledge, as we know, was acquired by means of senses and observation. But if that observation is all, and you don't have a frame of reference, then it is likely to be false. And we can simply show that with an example. What happens if you do not understand biology and the basic physics, and we talk about movement and the experience of movement? Well, again, it is our brain that senses, and it senses something if the fluids in your cochlea move, and they only move when there is a force upon them. Such a force is only there when you accelerate or decelerate, otherwise there is no force. So standing still, or when you move at a constant speed, that fluid will be in rest. There is no force upon it, we don't sense movement. So what is often said, we should feel we're on a spinning ball, is completely bollocks. And that's simply because we don't understand, or these people don't understand, the biology and the physics behind it. So can we sense movement? No, we cannot. Well, we can sense a change in movement. But it has to be a rapid change. Not like I travel from the North Pole to the equator and it takes me like 24 hours, and in the meantime some acceleration happened. That is not, our brain cannot detect that. So FA claims, flat earth claims we should feel the earth spin. If it was a globe, is only empirical evidence for those who do not understand the basics. It surely shows that empirical information doesn't help you if you don't have the frame of reference to understand what it is you see or feel. So trusting your senses is false unless you have a solid reference. And the flat earth's way of finding empirical evidence is wrong because they lack a solid reference. I'm sorry to say so. But also important is a thing I left out halfway the presentation. It is the acquired knowledge of the senses by observation and experimentation. And that is what lacks most flat earthers. But it doesn't matter. If you at least have the courtesy and the decency to do some experiments, you might help create some other part of your brains to become active again. And your index is no longer screwed up, because these experiments will show you whether you are right or wrong. But please take care that you have peers to review your experiments, that you set it up right. I have so often seen experiments done the wrong way, and then of course giving wrong results. So, my main question after this little presentation to Flat Earth believers is, what experiment do you have to do to prove that these obvious globe pictures to be pictures of a flat Earth? Because so far, after watching more than 100 YouTube vids, I found not a single shred of evidence in Flat Earth videos. So please, I invite you, leave your comments below the video. I'm really interested in your solution. How do you think you should set up an experiment to show that these pictures are of a flat Earth? Because what I see is a globe with my frame of reference. And for the globers, I also have a question. Oh, sorry, first, solution to the puzzles. Well, a different color, let's put a something around it that covers up the picture and leaves only the two planes, and we will see they have the same color. And if we draw a straight line, we see that it is a straight line. And this one is trickier, but if you calculate the angle of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over 3, you will see that that division is not the same. And that means that in this order I get some extra room here, and if I put them in the other way, I have some room below here. And if you add it all up, it is just enough to fill that part. And that is how somebody with some scientific background looks at stuff. We don't take it for granted. And for the globers, also a challenge. Can you list the names of all these people that either have an empty brain or have some problems with the indexing of their brain? I don't give a prize, but it's the honor you get when you have the longest list of people you recognize. Hope you guys liked it. See you again on YouTube, and let's have some wonderful discussions. And for those who liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. I know that the Flat Earthers will thumb it down anyway. And stay a little bit on topic when you start replying. And thank you all.